Hi Lenny, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm well, thank you. And thanks for taking the time to chat to me and my viewers about your career and your music.
That's all right. Thank you for having me here. I'm very grateful. And it's nice to connect with a fellow artist and being in these isolating times.
Absolutely. We need it more than ever, don't we?
Totally. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you questions about how you got to where you are. As a professional musician, tell me how you got started in terms of learning to play music.
Yeah. Look, it's a long, crazy journey of mine. And I think there was different levels of inspiration like throughout my childhood that sparked it. I think look, a lot of it, I've had like poetry and that's from my dad in my life, and music and art, and my culture, Chilean culture is full of art and music. So it's always been underlying there. But when I was going to primary school with my sister, I was lucky that my parents, pushed us to do music classes in primary school with a friend of ours, a teacher, Helen Laurie. And look, I hated going to music class because it'd be at the end of the day, and all you just want to do is go and play. And we had to walk like 20 minutes from primary school to our classes. But that kind of got music like the some another level of like the music theory. And I played piano, recorder, learned to read music, a bit of guitar. And that kind of got me going when I was younger. I didn't really realize it was really my passion at the time. But I think like the biggest moment I felt like, oh look, this is what I want to do, is when I think my mum put on the Beatles, the Help movie, and started being surrounded by all of those sort of movies with the Beatles. Also, Jesus Christ Superstar with the awesome rock music and singing. That really got me inspired to play drums, and so I made my mum helped me make a drum kit out of like cardboard, and she got cymbals. One of the men from her work to make a cymbal just out of pieces of tin, and I'd just
Oh,
watch those movies and I'd just play along, and play in my room listening to the Beatles. And yeah, I think that was one of the biggest inspirations for me. Just I love drumming and I love rhythm, and my parents were always, very helpful to me and my sister to be creative. Like, I never had a computer growing up, and it was kind of embarrassing going through even high school. I never had a computer because like my parents just wanted us to be out creating, making things, playing with people, drawing. Like would have a little workshop at home and make toys, and I'd make my first guitar out of like just a piece of wood and strings and that. So I think all of those things sort of helped me push me into like when I was a teenager to decide, wow, this is what I want to do. And I had a crossroad because I wanted to be a soccer player. That was my main thing. I wanted to be a professional soccer player, and I put a lot of time and effort into that for like 12 years, and it's kind of getting pretty far, semi-professional. But I had a friend of mine, Oscar, that a lot of people might see in the city. He's plays the djembe and didgeridoo in Rundle Mall, and he'd play soccer with me too. And he broke his leg, and one end of season, it was like January, sorry, during the summer holidays, he told me, "Oh, come out, busking with me," because he knew I played a bit of guitar. And so I went out there. He asked me a few times, and I decided to go out there. And the feeling I got when everyone just sort of stopped and gathered and listened to what we were doing and connected, um, it really inspired me to think, wow, this is something real powerful, and positive that we could do with people. Whereas soccer was getting very egotistical and competitive, and the contrast really made me think, man, this is what I want to do, like professionally and for the rest of my life. And at that same time, during the holidays, I watched a movie called The US versus John Lennon,
yep.
a documentary about John Lennon's life, and of course, Beatles were very inspirational to me. And to see how, like, when John Lennon decided to, like, give up that fame to sort of work for peace, and he went to America, and then he ended up being killed by a conspiracy, you might say. They say it was a madman, but watching all of that and then going out to Rundle Mall at that same sort of time, it really inspired me to like really want to pursue music for the rest of my life professionally, not just on the side and for fun. It's like, this is what I want to do. I want to do something meaningful with my life. So I think that's what sort of got me moving towards the professional side of thing. And being out in Rundle Mall, I was lucky to, like, a lot of the uni dudes at the con studying jazz would come past and they'd like what we're doing. So one of the guys, Nick, would come and jam on saxophone, and then they got to a point where there was like 10 or 12 of us in Rundle Mall. Security were telling us to shut up because we had like 4 saxophones and trumpets and all of that going. But that got me immersed in like the whole professional, you know, especially jazz music scene. And then from there, I formed a band called Local Revolution. We got our first gig at Casa Blah Blah, and then from there, yeah, I just never looked back. This is what I wanted to do. So I think those were the main highlights.
Yeah, look, you're saying that you learnt music from the support of your parents and just, I guess, from life experience. So you never enrolled officially into a course. You just learned
No,
through playing.
a lot of it was immersion, you know, and that's like, I think what music's about. Like, you know, you feel it and you learn it and you learn from people, you know, like a lot of our friends would play guitar, and then I really got stuck into guitar, and I just learned from learning a few chords from them or just playing around at home, playing a bit of guitar. You know, I learned the basics from my music teacher in primary school, but the rest was just, yeah, a lot of immersion, and I did a couple of lessons in high school. But yeah, most of it was just from learning from people and listening and watching, and then my parents putting Santana on the record player, my mum, and that got me inspired to play guitar. You know, and then I got involved with flamenco guitar from Florian Remes, who taught me some flamenco guitar. So yeah, a lot of it wasn't really like formal training. It was just like sort of life experiences and listening. And when we came to Australia, we were lucky to meet Sister Janet and her community. And a lot of people might know her as she was a singing nun in the 70s and had the rock masses and really, like, yeah, brought people together through music. And I'm lucky that she helped our family when we came to Australia, and we became very good friends. She's like a grandma to me, or she is my grandma here. And through her and her community, I learned a lot of guitar from going to church every Sunday, and we swap instruments and learning from them playing. So it's just a big sort of journey of immersion, and through that I've been lucky to like learn of Chris Finnan, a great blues guitarist, and now, you know, getting some lessons, and now sort of getting a bit more diving deeper into like the theory through a Bachelor of Music. But a lot of it's just been by playing with great musicians that I've been fortunate, because I knew this is what I wanted to do. Even though I wasn't good enough at the time, there was something that wanted me to do music, and that made me get out there before I was probably ready to play with great musicians. And a lot of the younger jazz dudes too, you know, growing up with them and playing with them, I learned a lot from them. So
Yeah,
I think, you know, that's where I sort of got my music knowledge from. And using your ear, you know, is something very, and not even your ear, just your heart and soul, I think is very important. That balance between that and theory, you know.
yeah, like that's great words. I mean, I can hear that you're very passionate about your craft, and a lot of young musicians think that they have to go through formal training first, and sometimes that actually changes their whole sound, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. So speaking of that, who are your main influences as a musician?
Oh, look, there's so many, but look, there's a lot of influences. I got to say, Santana is definitely one of the big ones. Since hearing his records, it just that mixture of music that he had, that sort of Latin, which is my heritage, that Latin music, but he had the blues and he had the rock, and he also has that positive message that he's continued to like put through his music about being love and light and bringing people together. I think that combination of that has been a huge influence in me, and that's driven me to, you know, I've been drawn to African American music, the blues, the jazz, the soul, the funk, the R&B, all of that. You know, just music that makes you feel something is very inspiring and influential to me. You know, there's Marvin Gaye, definitely a huge influence to me. Bill Withers, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, obviously. Also, like from my heritage, we have a lot of folklore, sort of Latin music, and there's a lot of artists that have inspired me through Chile from growing up listening to. There's a band called Los Prisioneros, which were a really cool rock sort of electro band, and all of them had really good messages. We have a Yapu, a band from Chile that were exiled during the 1970 coup. A lot of that music from South America, that folklore music, really inspires me through my message. And of course, like Tupac, I got to say, Tupac's a huge influence to me through his just like his meaningful lyrics, his poetry, in most of his songs. Some of them weren't,
Yep.
but yeah, really just like how he, like, you know, really delved into like lyrics and words. And, you know, I know he studied Shakespeare and Malcolm X, and like just made it into his own sort of popular sound. And I think that's what inspires me from artists that, you know, have created a popular sound, but with something that's got real depth and meaning and purpose, not just for
Yeah.
the sake of being popular. So
Yes.
yeah, I reckon they're my main influences. You know, Paul Simon too. You know, Simon and Garfunkel, beautiful songwriting. I've
Mhm.
always loved great songwriting and lyrics. Mattis Yahoo
Mhm.
too. He's got great lyrics and meaning behind his music. It's endless, the inspiration that I have, but I reckon they're probably the main ones. And then there's a lot of, like, you know, more popular music now that inspires me, but I think it's more the sound and the way they explore sound
Yeah.
in that way.
I mean, having heard some of your stuff, original music, I can hear the influences you've listed, and it's quite a nice eclecticism there. And the way that you choose the people artistically that inspire you, it sounds like you're on a journey to create conscious music that
Yeah.
has something that's a bit deeper. And I wonder if that's anything to do with, I guess, your heritage. So you're originally from Chile and you came to Australia when you were very young. Does
Hmm.
your heritage influence your music in any way? And if so, how?
Yeah, totally. Look, it's just in so many ways there's been a lot of suffering in South America. I think, I mean, in the whole world over, but in South America, there's always been a huge struggle, and you know, I think America has always tried to get control of Latin America. So there's been a lot of coups in South America, in Chile, especially. That we, in 1973, our president got killed, and, you know, by U.S. forces and the right wing, and from there's been a whole sort of spirit of suffering. But it's different because when I went back there for the first time in a few years ago, after 28 years, it's like they've created art, and there's a lot of suffering, but it's real, like, hopeful, you know, like, there's a lot of emotion in Chilean culture, you know, underlined with suffering. And I think that's come out through, you know, my parents, my dad, you know, who's a poet. The both of them were involved a lot in the struggles in Chile for liberation, and, you know, they gave their life for me and my sister to leave everything behind and give us a better life. So I think a lot of that has come through me in my music, you know, that desire to make the world a better place, you know, and also see through politics and all of that, and bring that sort of message into my music. So I think, yeah, I mean, the Chilean culture's got a lot of influences, you know, and there's also a lot of beautiful, happy stuff there in Chile, you know, underlying all that suffering. There's a lot of beautiful storytelling and culture. We've got the Mapuche people, the indigenous people, that, you know, have gone through a lot of the things that the Aboriginal people here in Australia have gone through. They're fighting for their land. They've got a rich culture, a lot of respect for land, earth, spirituality, all of that big sort of melting pot of things happening in Chile. I think are somehow sort of coming through me here in finding myself here in Australia. And also, you know, like, I think I've got Arabic influences that came. The Arabs went to Spain, and from Spain they conquered South America. And so I think I have some Arabic. I mean, when I went to Spain for the first time, I saw my surname up there, and then found out that, you know, that name came from the Arabs. So I think, yeah, there's like this huge sort of multicultural, revolutionary, loving spirit that comes from Chile, especially, that I think I'm trying to figure out how to control
Yeah,
and express, I think.
yeah. Look, culture, especially a culture such as where you've come from, that experiences great suffering and oppression. I mean, from that comes some really significant art, doesn't it?
Totally. Yeah.
And that was last year was a big year for you in terms of your songwriting.
Hmm.
So tell us a bit more about some of the highlights of 2019 before we all went
Sure.
into lockdown.
Yeah, I'm lucky. Sort of all. It actually sort of started, like, the breakthrough, I think, for me, started from 2016 to 2019, and, you know, I was lucky. I was sort of searching for myself. I've been part of Local Revolution for a long time, my first band, which has been really good. A lot of support and success and touring through them. but I was sort of looking for my own voice too within that. And so sort of I branched out on my own, started writing songs, and I entered a FOOM songwriting competition with one of my songs, Cold Love. And that ended up winning the competition, which was very sort of, it felt, I don't know how to say, you know, it wasn't an ego thing, but it felt nice sort of being, I don't know, acknowledged for, like, you know, since I've been young, I've been trying to sort of work out how to find myself in songwriting and lyrics, and to have that acknowledged really meant a lot for me. You know, it was a huge sort of inspiration and motivation for me to keep going, because sometimes, you know, there's a lot of self-doubt in the musical journey. So, you know, it's felt good to have that sort of momentum. I got into scouted, you know, like 16 of the best emerging artists from Adelaide, picked into that festival with my band Local Revolution, and we got in front of a lot of great industry scouts and all of that. So it was nice to sort of to mingle and make new connections with artists and industry people in Australia. And leading up to that, you know, I got the support act for Maxi Priest and Common Kings, which was actually a few years before that. And, you know, that was fantastic because they're a huge inspiration. Common Kings are like that island of music, you know, that you hear in Filipino, the island reggae, R&B, soul. I think they're from California. And so and I got up there on stage and sang a Bob Marley song with them. So, you know, to have that sort of those experiences with like guys that are just incredible musicians and touring the world, it's really sort of inspired me to keep going. And I also I can't forget Santana. I got to play you know, at Santana's concert with the Doobie Brothers at Botanic Park, and that was beautiful. I mean, like, look, to be honest, it was the worst gig I've ever done because I didn't get to be on the big stage with him, but at least I got on the same lineup. But I was touring around Australia, and I was in Brisbane. And one of my friends told me, "Oh, look, you can get this opportunity to come down." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I should do it or not." And so, anyway, I ended up paying, like, you know, extra to move my flights around, and got there. But, you know, the gig, I had no shelter. They put me in a place with no shelter. I thought I was going to be in the main stage. It started raining, so all my gear got completely wet.
Oh no!
It was like a bit of a disaster gig, but, you know, in the end, I got to be in that same sort of arena as Santana and the Doobie Brothers with a few other Adelaide artists as opening guests. So, look, that was still like a blessing. I would have hoped to get up on stage with him, which is definitely one of my dreams.
Oh, you're very close to that dream now, aren't you, Leni?
I was so close.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's so nice to see that you can see the optimism and positivity despite that. I mean, I'm looking outside the window now. It's raining. Saw my first lightning strike just then, and you would look at that same thing, and there's the thunder. You can hear it, and you would look at that same thing, and you would try and see the good in it. And that's just testament to you as a musician, which tells me that you're probably gonna get to that goal sooner than you think.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. And I also like to say, you know, you asked me about that culture and that suffering and art. When you go to Chile, you'll see there's like murals and like you from your theater background. There's so much acting. My dad he studied acting and studied with a lot of great people that are now on big TV shows in South America and all of that. So out of that suffering, there's been so much, like you said, there's so much art and music and acting and everywhere you go, there's just incredible creative masterpieces painted on every wall. So I really owe that side of me. That I only got a glimpse of it, but I think it sort of got instilled in me for my creativity and my music.
Yep. No, I understand you on an aside from the same cultural level. I mean, I went back to my country in the Philippines for the first time when I was 17, and I saw exactly the same kind of suffering. So I do believe our influences are very similar.
Definitely, yeah.
On an aside, how was the whole COVID-19 situation affected you personally and professionally?
Yeah, look, it's been difficult, I think, for everyone in so many different ways. Everyone's been affected differently. Obviously, gig-wise, you know, I lost all my gigs that were coming up, and now as we're going deeper into it, there's been a lot of adapting. But yeah, like, you know, I had a lot of wedding gigs, a lot of original gigs booked up, and so a lot of projects sort of have stopped. Financially, it's been tricky. I'm lucky that I have got other work. Through Sister Janet, who I mentioned before, I work part-time at a welfare homeless centre in the city. So to be honest, I have been pretty busy there working for people that haven't really got anything, and a lot of support has been closed to them. So, it's been tricky, I think, like losing that creative side for me, which was kind of like my space to sort of like replenish myself and sort of rest my mind sometimes when I go out and gig. I think it's been difficult losing that. But at the same time, I've been busy, helping with homeless people, mentally ill people. So yeah, look, it's been a huge change, but I'm very fortunate. I think I'm in a better position than a lot of people, just to have like a roof over my head and all of that. So yeah, look, it's just a matter of adapting. And to be honest, I think it's been a good wake up call for the world, especially the first world countries, just to like, stop for a minute and realize, the impact that we're having on the earth, on each other too. Like just to stop for a minute and think, what are we doing? What's actually important? Is money really important, or is human connection important? Why are we spending most of our time, like grinding and going to work and spending less time with the people we love? I think in a way, like, I think it's been good that the machine has finally stopped, because I don't think it's ever stopped I don't know, ever since I've been alive or in history. This whole machine that's been grinding has never stopped. So look, even though it's been difficult for a lot of artists, and me included, I think it's also like an opportunity, hopefully, for us to start again fresh with a new vision, and hopefully the world to start again, almost like a revolution, I think, if we take advantage of this break. I think that's the positive side I see in it.
Yeah, wise words, brother.
Yeah.
I really like your attitude. Who knows? Who knows what is going to come out of this? But you're right. What have we valued before this time? And is it really what we miss? Is the normal what we miss? Or is it that we're looking for something deeper?
That's right.
What really matters to us? And this is a good time to ask all of that. Like you said, human connection, we should probably be valuing over everything else, material and monetary. And a lot of the time we've been too busy to notice that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, I think, is that we have been too busy. Even as artists, we get very busy, like, and I think sometimes we need to stop and just breathe for a minute, individually and as a world. I think we need to stop and reflect a little bit more often, so that we can just align ourselves. And like, even just to think like how everything just toppled as a domino effect financially. I think it's just a way that shows like, that way of living's not really sustainable for the world, society, and the planet. I don't want to get too political when we talk about capitalism and all of that, but the fact that everything's sort of made, mass produced, and comes from different places rather than our own communities, our food, our resources, like, I think it's a good opportunity to sort of like support local people, whether it's local music businesses, local shops, like, I think that's the change that we could like sort of instill in this time.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, these are all good points. And now that we've got the time to think about that, how about we actually think about that and hopefully try and practice it when we all come out of this?
That's right. Not go back to the same thing.
Yeah. No. I don't think it's political. I just think, like what I said earlier, you have a deeper mind about these things and you want to write conscious music, and that's not anything to be ashamed of. Sometimes people feel a bit confronted when your art or your expression is political, but then again,
that's right.
Isn't art supposed to be a comment on the society that we live in?
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that, look, I try and, bite my tongue sometimes when I see things like, even like, look, I'll bring it up, like, the whole Triple J moving the date, in respect to Aboriginal people. A lot of people that listen to Triple J got annoyed about that, thinking, oh, why is Triple J getting political? When really it's not political. It's just being a human being and being caring. And I really applaud Triple J for making that move, because like, inspiring and opening people's minds to a lot of injustices. I think, like, for me, like when I was younger, I used to be very like, guns blazing, political, this, that sort of preaching, and nothing wrong with that. But I think I kind of want to like implement that in my music, but in a way that I can connect and inspire people rather than just sort of belt things into people's heads. So I think that's what I've been trying to find with my music. Like, you listen to James Brown, Michael Jackson, all the popular music that we all listen to, a lot of that is, you could say, political, but it has messages about social justice and changing the world and the way we think. So I think that's what I'm trying to bring into my music. And like, so I've got no shame in saying that I want to make pop music, but pop music that's conscious. I don't think you have to be either conscious music or pop music. I think it all can be intertwined. And that's what I'm sort of trying to move towards. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lofty goal. It's a very noble, humble goal. And I think that's an extension of you, just from what I'm hearing. It's great to hear. It's refreshing to hear an artist that's writing for the sake of art and not for anything manufactured. So that's a great thing.
Thank you.
And
Look, it's difficult though, man.
yeah,
there's
no,
a lot of temptation to think, oh, I want to be popular, or I want to do something that impresses people. And look, I respect hearing your things too. Like, stay true to the mission and who you are, and why you do art and music. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we're all trying to figure that out, but I think that, like you said, this time affords us that. And also, while we're indoors, hopefully you've been coming up with other creative projects to keep you occupied aside from missing the stages and live performance. Have you been doing anything creative? I mean, you said
Look, I've been trying to. I haven't really had the downtime yet, because I've been helping out with a lot of my social work and that. But I have been, like, at this time when everything sort of closed down and went to self-isolation, I was in the middle of releasing my single, which is Magnetic, if you can see. I just released it now on Spotify and all of that. So I've been preoccupied sort of pushing that out into the world. So I was being creative before this all happened. But yeah, look, from the single, I've had a lot of sort of people reach out, and I've got some cool collaborations that are coming out. So I sort of have been creative, but in a way of like not picking up my instruments and not writing, like sometimes you need to just have a break or do different things. And like when I read a lot of things or listen to a lot of great artists or people that have been inspired and created great ideas in the world, I think sometimes the best ideas come when you're walking or not doing what you actually are supposed to do. Like, rather than playing the guitar, maybe I'll get the inspiration somewhere else. So I've been trying to take this time, especially the last 2 weeks, to just have a break from the whole having to feel like I have to write and all of that. And hopefully, like, in the next coming weeks, it'll all come to me. So yeah, I guess I've been creative in a different way, just trying to give my mind space to be inspired again.
Yeah, look, I completely understand you. In fact, I've been walking 2 hours a day to try and get the same thing going. There's a Latin term for that. It's called solvitar ambulando, I believe. And I
Wow.
think it's the sleepwalker. And you're right, some of the best ideas come from when you're not sitting down trying to be creative. It comes from when you are just allowing yourself to do other things and breathe.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I mean,
I
there's
have
a
to
book
take
you
that
should
word
probably
from you
read.
down.
There's a
Yeah,
book you
what's
should
that?
read. It's called Wired to Create, and it's got all that kind of stuff in it. But yeah, that's where I learned the term solvitar ambulando. And just like
Wired
you,
to create.
my heritage is very Latin-based because Philippines was colonized by Spain for hundreds of years. So half our
Totally.
language is
Yeah.
Spanish.
Oh, I feel you. Sorry, while you said sleepwalk, I just want to say one thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
I'm hugely inspired by Sammy J. I don't know if you heard of Sammy Johnson. I think he's from New Zealand.
don't know if I have heard his.
He's incredible. You should listen to him.
Cool.
Incredible soulful artist. One of the most amazing voices I've heard around, and he's got a song called Sleepwalker. So yeah, you should check that out. I just thought I'd just say it.
No, good on you for plugging in other artists.
Inspiration.
New Zealanders are our very close neighbors, so I'm all for promoting other people as well that are songwriters. Look, we're coming to the end. This is probably a bit of a sentimental question. What would you say to artists who've had their livelihoods affected by COVID-19 restrictions?
Yeah, look, it's hard for me to look. I don't want to sort of tell anyone what to do because I think different people are going through this in different ways. But I think just remember that you're not alone. There's a lot of people in the same situation, and I think it's important for us to like stay connected, talk to people, reach out. I think I would say reach out to people. It's easy to get depressed and fall into this sort of dark mindset if we just think about ourselves. And look, this might sound really harsh to someone, but I think sometimes the more we we reach out and see how everyone else is doing, then people will also look after us. So I'll just say, look, remember, you're not alone. I think talk to people, communicate. If you need to have a break from music, there's nothing wrong with that. And go for walks. I'm here if you need anything. There's a lot of services out there that can reach out. You know, even if you just need food to get by or whatever, just remember, I think that you're not alone. I really believe we are all in this together. And if, you know, I really mean that, that word's being tossed around, we're all in this together, but I think we need to all believe that we are, and not just say it, but reach out to someone. Like, you know, a friend of mine called me randomly just before, when this was all happening, and just checked on me, just said, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
And that meant a lot, you know, like, you know, I think do more of that. I think just check on each other. I hope, you know, I can't say anything else because I think everyone's going through it differently, but just check on each other, reach out.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the human connection, isn't it? Especially when we're
Yeah.
apart physically, try to keep those connections. So on that, what's the first thing you're going to do when we're freed from this isolation?
Look, I think I'm going to give a huge hug to my cute little I was going to say my nephew and my family. Just, you know, it's been so weird, like being around your parents and not being able to, like, you know, hug them or touch them, because we should be careful and look out for the people that are probably higher at risk. I think we're all sort of at risk in a different way, but I think I'll probably give my family a huge hug and then give my friends a big hug. And yeah, I think that's the first thing I'll do. Just give people a huge hug. Whoever wants a hug, hit me up.
Free hugs from Leni.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah, look, that is something that I do miss as well, about seeing friends in person, and I think all the huggers are finding this very difficult this period.
Yeah, and a lot of cultures like ours are very, you know, expressive and hands-on.
Yeah.
I was talking to a mate about that, the European culture and all of that. You know, there's a lot of touching and hugging, so I think it's been tricky for us, not being able to express ourselves fully like that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Look, Leni, let's just finish with you sharing one of your original songs with us. I feel very privileged to hear you play live.
Oh, no worries. So, thank you.
Is this the song that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so I'll play Cold Love. And this was written a couple of years ago. And it was written because I went through a crazy time in my life where everything just got turned upside down. You know, broke up with a partner that I'd been with for a long time, and you know, I learned from reading a lot of books, and I'm glad you recommended that book. You know, that sometimes the worst things that happen to us, I think, are the best things that happen to us, because they let us sort of grow, and so through suffering you grow. So I think, yeah, that's why I also think this time is a good thing for everyone, because I think there's the potential to come out better and stronger. So yeah, the song's called Cold Love. Can you hear the guitar right?
I can, it's great, thank you.
Cold nights and cold fights, are we doing alright? 'Cause who are we fooling now? Who are we fooling now? Some call and some wait, heartaches and heartbreaks. 'Cause who are we fooling now? Who are we fooling now? Ooh. In this cold love, this is cold love. This is cold love. This is cold love. In this crazy life, there's a love to be found. Maybe we we should leave. Leave it in the ground. In this cold love. This is cold love. This is cold love. This is cold love. Cold love, cold love. In this crazy life, oh, there's a love to be found. Or maybe we should leave, or leave it in the ground. In this cold love. And no one talks and no one speaks, though we're crying underneath. 'Cause who are we fooling now? Who are we fooling now? Love, 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 yeah. Ooh. And some will fall and some will break. There's no love without heart pain. 'Cause who are we fooling now? Who are we fooling now?
Woo!
Thank you.
I bet you missed that applause.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for my first audience and connecting, my first experience of connecting with someone else through my music. Thank you.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you for performing acoustic and live and sharing your truth.
It's all right. Thank you for having me.
Look, that's the end of everything that I wanted to ask you, and you've just given us so much insight on your practice and everything that you're about. So I'm really looking forward to hearing the new music that you create over these times, in the next few months or however long this lasts for us and thereafter. Look, I think you've got a really bright future ahead, so I'm so
Thank
keen.
you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me here and your time, and also, you know, your heritage and your music, which I got a glimpse of. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And to meet someone that's sort of in line with my journey too, I really appreciate that connection. And thank you for the support.
My pleasure. I was very tempted not to sing harmonies along with that.
Oh, you should have. Well, look, this song is unreleased, so it's coming. It's coming. So I'll probably hit you up for harmonies.
Oh, well, we've all got our studios here and we're in isolation. I'm happy to help you out.
Yeah,
Look,
thank you.
thanks a lot, Leni. And I'm looking forward to sharing this with my viewers and readers. And all the
Thank you
best
so
with
much.
Magnetic, the single. It's a great song. I listened to
Thank
it
you.
and I
Yeah,
was just
check it out on
by
Spotify, guys, if you want.
Yes, and yeah, let us know a few of your links now, just to wrap up. Where can we find more about you?
Yeah, look, you can find me on Instagram, Leni_Dreamer, Facebook, just Leni, Leni. Those are probably the main spots. Check out Magnetic on Spotify. It's also out on Apple Music and all of that. And I've got a little surprise coming in a few weeks with Magnetic, so a little sort of intimate thing that I'm organizing with some cool people. So yeah, keep a lookout. This is my first song, original song that I've released out on my own, out into the universe. So I'm so excited. I've also got t-shirts, this one and another one.
Yes.
So check my Instagram out if you guys want one, because I'm putting an order in this week. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the love from you and a lot of people that have given me already for my song Magnetic. It's just got like everything that I've been inspired for. I sort of tried to weave it into this song that ended up having this disco Motown R&B vibe.
Yeah.
mixed with Daft Punk, The Weeknd. You know, you see a lot of influence. So I really appreciate the love from the song. Stream it, share it if you love it. And I've got a lot more stuff coming soon. So thank you.
Wonderful, Leni. We wish you all the best with your music and have a
Thank you.
lovely day.
Thank you. You too, Jennifer.
See you, Leni.
See ya.